Yes, this is what football fans around the world have been eagerly waiting for. FIFA's official statement and decision regarding the complaint filed by the Argentina national team over the various incidents that occurred during the World Cup final. Pay close attention, because this discussion is extremely important. We have already received information about the statement that is reportedly set to be officially announced, and the decision will explain more clearly what will happen to Argentina, what will happen to Spain, what the status of the World Cup final result will be, and what will happen to the trophy if Argentina's complaint is ultimately determined to have a legitimate basis. Even the biggest question now is whether FIFA's decision will simply acknowledge that mistakes were made, or whether it will instead bring much bigger and more shocking consequences for the world of football. As we have discussed previously, the Argentina national team has filed an official complaint with FIFA regarding what happened during the World Cup final. This complaint did not come out of nowhere. Argentina has questioned several incidents that were considered highly controversial and potentially capable of influencing the course of the match. One of the main issues under scrutiny is the referee's decisions, the use of VAR, as well as alleged decisions that were considered unfavorable to Argentina and ultimately benefited Spain. All of these matters then became part of the complaint that Argentina requested to be formally reviewed. And of course, we have to understand that a World Cup final is not an ordinary match. It is the match that determines who will take home the most prestigious trophy in football. That is why every decision made during the match carries enormous significance. One referee's decision, one VAR intervention, one card, or one foul judged differently can change the course of a match and even change the history of an entire tournament. That is why Argentina believes that what happened in that final cannot simply be forgotten without a thorough examination. In its complaint, Argentina questioned whether all of the decisions made during the match were truly carried out in accordance with the applicable procedures and rules. There are questions about how VAR was used, how the referee's decisions were made, and whether there were actions or decisions that indirectly caused the match to go against Argentina. All of these questions then became even more significant because the match in question was the World Cup final. This is why the review process is so important. If this were based solely on the opinions of supporters, then the matter could easily be dismissed as an ordinary debate following a match. But when a football federation files a complaint through official channels, the situation takes on a different dimension. FIFA must examine the evidence, procedures, match reports, refereeing decisions, VAR footage, and all information related to the incidents before reaching a decision. And according to the developments currently being discussed, the process regarding Argentina's complaint has already gone through several stages. The complaint was initially submitted to FIFA, and the matter was also connected to a review process through the CAS. This means that public attention is no longer focused solely on what happened on the field, but also on the decision that will be issued after the review process is completed. Everyone wants to know one thing. What exactly will FIFA decide after all of these issues have been examined? If FIFA ultimately determines that Argentina does indeed have strong grounds for its complaint, then that decision would certainly be extremely important. However, an acknowledgement that mistakes were made does not automatically mean that the result of the match will be changed. There would still be questions about the type of violation that was proven, how significantly it affected the match, who was responsible, and what kind of solution or action could be taken. In fact, this may be one of the most interesting parts of the official decision. Imagine if FIFA were to declare that there were indeed serious errors in the decision-making process during the final. What would have to happen next? Would the final result still be considered valid? Would there be sanctions against certain parties? Would the match decision be reviewed? Or would FIFA provide some other form of solution to Argentina? All of these possibilities have become subjects of debate because the World Cup final has already produced a champion, and history has already been written. However, there is one thing that needs to be taken into consideration. If the investigation were to uncover manipulation or actions that clearly influenced the course of the match, then the matter would obviously become much more serious. Because in such a situation, the question would no longer simply be whether a referee made a mistake, but whether the match was actually played fairly. If the integrity of the match is called into question, then FIFA would certainly have to provide a very clear explanation to the public. This is what makes Argentina's case so interesting and such a major focus of attention. Because if all of these allegations were proven, the consequences would not only be felt by Argentina. Spain would also find itself in an extremely difficult situation because the legitimacy of its victory would once again become a subject of discussion. The players who had already celebrated their victory, the people who had already considered the match finished, and even the historical record of the World Cup could all potentially be affected. And of course, the biggest issue of all is the World Cup trophy. If Argentina were ultimately proven right in its complaint, many people would ask whether Argentina could be recognized as the world champion. Could the trophy actually change hands? Could the final result be overturned? Or would FIFA choose another solution? Until an official decision is actually announced, these questions remain part of the speculation. But precisely because of these possibilities, attention surrounding the case continues to grow. What makes the situation even more interesting is the discussion that FIFA's official statement could eventually provide an explanation regarding Argentina's position. If FIFA really acknowledges that Argentina has strong grounds for its complaint, then at least one part of the complaint would receive official recognition. After that, the next question would be about the consequences of that acknowledgement. Because the public does not simply want to hear that Argentina was right. The public wants to know what FIFA will actually do after acknowledging it. Will FIFA provide compensation? Will there be penalties? Will the result of the match be reviewed? Is there any possibility of a replay? Or will FIFA make a decision that is even more shocking and unprecedented? And this is where the most interesting part comes in. If FIFA's decision were to actually change the status of the World Cup final result, then we would be talking about an event that would go down in the history of world football. It is not every day that the result of a World Cup final is questioned again after the match has already ended. It is not every day that a national team files a complaint that could potentially affect the status of a trophy. And of course, it is certainly not every day that the football world waits for a decision that could potentially change which team is officially recorded as the world champion. However, we also have to remain cautious. Before FIFA actually releases its official document and decision, all of these possibilities must be considered part of the ongoing developments and discussions surrounding the case. We cannot immediately assume that Argentina will definitely receive the trophy or that Spain will definitely lose the title. The most important thing is to wait for the official decision and look carefully at what FIFA actually states. But if the information regarding this decision is indeed accurate and FIFA truly declares that Argentina's complaint has strong grounds, then the impact could be enormous. Argentina would certainly have a reason to continue fighting for its position. Spain would also face major questions regarding its victory. Meanwhile, FIFA would come under pressure to explain to the world why the decision was made and what consequences it would have for the result of the World Cup final. And we have to remember that Argentina did not file this complaint simply to argue about the result of the match. From Argentina's point of view, the main issue is justice. If a team believes it was harmed by decisions made during the biggest match in the world, then it certainly has the right to question those decisions through the available official channels. That is exactly what Argentina is doing through this complaint process. That is why FIFA's eventual decision will be extremely important, not only for Argentina, but also for the future integrity of football competitions. If FIFA can establish that the entire match was conducted according to the rules, then the public will receive a clear explanation. But if serious violations are discovered, FIFA will also have to explain what steps will be taken to resolve the matter. And of course, there is one question that continues to arise throughout all of these discussions. If Argentina is truly proven to have been harmed, would FIFA dare to make such a major decision? Would FIFA dare to change something that has already been considered settled? Would FIFA dare to question the result of a World Cup final once again? Or will there instead be a compromise decision that acknowledges mistakes were made while still maintaining the result of the match? That is the major question that remains unanswered to this day. However, if the highly anticipated official statement truly confirms Argentina's position and declares that there are strong grounds for its complaint, then we could potentially see developments that would be truly shocking. In fact, it would not be impossible for that decision to become one of the most widely discussed decisions in the history of modern football. Just imagine a final that has already ended, a champion that has already been determined, and a trophy that has already been celebrated, suddenly becoming the center of an investigation again because of an official complaint from the side that believes it was wronged. If that were to actually happen, then the story of this World Cup final would not be over. Instead, its most controversial chapter may only just be beginning. And now, the question goes back to all of you. In your opinion, if FIFA truly declares that Argentina has strong grounds for its complaint, what should be done? Should the final result remain unchanged? Should FIFA provide a special solution for Argentina? Should the match be played again? Or, if it is proven that the result of the match was affected by serious violations, does Argentina deserve to be recognized as the world champion? Write your opinion in the comments, because I want to see how you view this situation. Do you believe justice should come first, even if the decision could potentially change World Cup history? Or should the result of a match still be respected once the match is over? And don't forget to keep following the latest developments regarding this case, because a single official statement from FIFA could potentially change the entire discussion. If that decision is actually announced and its contents match what is currently drawing public attention, then Argentina, Spain, FIFA, and even the status of the World Cup trophy could once again become the focus of worldwide attention. So, don't miss the next developments. Because now, we are not simply waiting for an answer about what happened in the World Cup final. We are waiting for an answer to a much bigger question. Will the history of the World Cup final truly remain the way we have known it all this time? If FIFA actually issues a decision recognizing Argentina's complaint, then a new chapter in world football could soon begin. And perhaps that decision could become one of the most shocking decisions ever issued in World Cup history. See you in the next Argentina video. We will continue to discuss the latest developments regarding Argentina's complaint, FIFA's decision, Spain's position, and the possible consequences for the World Cup trophy once this entire process is complete.